In the age of 100-meter sixes, do you think it's relevant to be called the wall?
You should start this show, then we'll have a chat about it.
Done? So when's the first time you heard the wall?
I can't remember exactly the first time, but I know where it sort of came out from and where it originated. I think it probably came out after one of my long, typically maybe boring innings. But and I saw the headline, the wall. I think later on in reflection and after going through my career, I really thought that it was a really clever. It was some really clever boy or girl sitting on a desk in some newspaper office somewhere, actually looking into the future, and sort of decided, okay, let's name him the wall today in a really positive sense. But also we could flip that around for our future headlines, which could be the wall crumbles or another brick in the wall falls down, as did happen, when I went through a bad patch later on. I saw those headlines as well in the newspaper. So yeah, I think if someone really clever in a newspaper office somewhere sitting there decided, this is a good one for the future.
What a strategy.
Good tactics.
One question I always wanted to ask you. Why were you so serious all your cricketing career? Even taking stance and then that whip also, you had this expression, always serious. Was that also a strategy?
And a lot of people ask me this question, and I was not the most extroverted person, so you wouldn't see me dancing in the middle of a party. But and I was a bit of an introvert, but I wasn't as serious as I think it came out on the cricket field, because I think I had the tendency to give that kind of impression, and on my face, I was intense, but I mean, that's the seriousness that came out was probably just the way, the expression of my face, and the amount I sweated a lot, and I had a tendency to sweat a lot more than other people do, and especially playing in India, sweat dripping all across your face, and really trying to concentrate. I think it gave off that impression that I'm really serious and I don't smile, and I don't enjoy what I was doing, which is actually quite the opposite. I loved batting, and especially when I batted, I really enjoyed batting, and enjoyed batting for long periods of time.
But that expression helped, because in 2003 when you got married, before that, every mother wanted you to be her son-in-law. Somewhere you gave an impression that you would make a great husband. And your colleagues also tell me that you had a lot of female following. Any interesting stories there? Did it disturb your concentration there?
No. Yeah, the female following, I mean, it was nice. It was nice to have that female following. It was nice to have that kind of support. It varied as well. After I got married, I used to get a lot of letters at Valentine's Day in those days. After I got married, I got a lot of letters at Rakhi. So things kind of changed in that context as well. But yeah, I mean, it was always sometimes interesting stories with fans, and more, from the perspective of my parents, and the way my parents, when I first sort of started playing for India, as naturally happens, you get a lot of fans, and people actually want to come to your house, and people want to, pick up the phone and speak to you or write letters to you. And my parents, they really sort of genuinely believe that I must speak to every single one of my fans. I should interact with them. I should talk to them. And it would get quite tiresome for me, but that was the way my parents were, and they really, and so if people sometimes walked into the door, it was quite common for people to ring the bell and knock the door and say, I want to speak to Rahul, and my parents would call me, and I would have to go and speak to them. And it so happened once that I'd come back, I think, from a long tour. I'd just come back, and I'd gone off to sleep after sort of just reaching home in the morning. I was sleeping through the afternoon, and I got up in the evening, and my mom said that, there's a fan waiting for you. She's come all the way from Hyderabad. I thought, oh God, I mean, and apparently she'd been waiting there for about an hour. My parents had called her in, given her tea and given her coffee, and she was sitting just waiting for me. And I said, okay, I thought it was going to be a simple autograph, sort of photograph kind of thing, which is usually what happens, it's just an autograph. But as I went there and I gave her the usual photograph and said, hello, how are you? You come from Hyderabad, it's great. She would refuse to leave, and she said, no, I'm not going to go. And I said, I mean, what do you mean I'm not going to go? She says, no, I've left my house in Hyderabad, and I'm going to come here to stay here, and I'm not going to leave here. I said, no, how's that possible? You go to where your parents, and obviously I got a bit upset at that stage. And then obviously my parents came in, sort of realizing what's happening. and then eventually, obviously, it did get sorted out. I think we had to sort of get the police in and
Really? That
yeah,
bad?
because she did threaten not to leave and threaten to sort of but they were able to contact her parents, and it all ended quite well. But I think it was a little bit of a wake-up call to my parents as well. That you don't just let anyone into the door and have them sit down. But it was really sweet. I think in those days, I think there was a lot more. There wasn't as much of, I guess, there was fan following, but I think there was a certain sense of innocence about the whole thing, and it allowed a lot more interaction between players and fans.
Wow, the wall truly collapses on this one.
Yeah, it's not an ideal kind of situation for everyone concerned, but it all ended up well, so it was okay.
9 out of 10 cricketers that I know don't like to read and take pride in the fact that they don't read. You on every tour had a new book.
Actually, the habit of reading, I mean, I'll be honest, it's not that I grew up loving to read, or it's not that I read through school a lot. I actually started reading when I went to college, and I just met different people and sort of made other friends, and they would talk about books and suggest a few books to me, and I would read, and I would sort of started enjoying reading a bit more, and I actually enjoyed it because I actually found that it took my mind away from the cricket, because when I really didn't enjoy watching television that much. I still found that when I watched television, I could still think about cricket, and I could still think about my batting. But the thing with reading is, if I was reading a good book or something that I enjoyed, at least it took my mind away from thinking about cricket and the stance and the grip and who am I going to face next, and all these thoughts that how are you going to score runs, all of these thoughts that sort of constantly at the back of your mind, and it can be an irritation. It can actually sap you quite a bit. So just reading, I found, was a really good way to sort of take my mind off things, and yeah, I mean, it did raise a few eyebrows at times in some of the books that I read, and some of my teammates would look at it and wonder, what am I doing there?
Any example there?
One of the books I really liked reading, and it was a book actually Mr. Hanuman Singh actually gave me. The late Mr. Hanuman Singh was a fantastic coach, and he gave me this book called the Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Richard Bach, early sort of, I must have been 16 or 17 then, and he gave me this book, and it was a book that really, I think, in a lot of ways I loved reading, and it was a book in ways that inspired me a lot. That just the quest for the seagull's quest for excellence in a lot of ways, and I sort of related to that at the stage in my career I was in. But there's some of my teammates who say, "Yaar, ye chidiya kya sikhane wala hai humko, cricket ke bare mein kya pad rahe ho?" And so it was a really thin, small book, so it was easy to read as well.
Surprise for you, we have that book for you.
Okay. Yeah.
Which you can pass on to the next generation.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many of them are going to bother with it, but yeah, it's a lovely book. I would recommend it to anyone in any pursuit of excellence, really.
But did reading actually help you in real life?
Look, I think reading does help in the sense that it opens your eyes up to so many things and so much that you could you learn about things. I mean, it's impossible to know the whole world, and it's impossible to get that much information. It's only through books and through reading about things that you're able to look at situations through other people's eyes and understand what it's like. But even in my own cricketing career, if I had to look back on certain things, there were times when I read about stuff that I could improve on, whether it was things like I said earlier, I used to sweat a lot. So, I was reading about this doctor in Perth who did the sweat analysis thing, and how maybe I could use some of his research to help my game and help me in issues I had. There was a situation where I was, I read about the South African doctor, and she worked with the England rugby team when they won the World Cup at that time, about exercises for the eyes and how that might help, in cricket. And so it allowed me to just explore and look at different things and actually open my eyes up to different things. Not all of the things that I read and the things that I did helped me, but there was a lot of things that I picked up which, without reading and without just keeping an open mind to things, I possibly would not have.
You exercise the eye?
I mean, it was quite interesting. It was just interesting set of exercises just to keep your eyes fresh and just to keep them sharp, and especially as you got older. Probably didn't help towards the end of my career, but it just it's something you can't actually say that this helps that much. I mean, there's no correlation, and it's very difficult to judge what is helping you and what's not helping you in a lot of these things. But I think if you're someone who wants to be the best he possibly can be, then you're going to try all kinds of things, and I have tried some strange things to try and be good.
Was this before England? You got 4 centuries after that?
No, I wish not. I was much earlier in my career, and I wish that, there are a lot of things that you do and you do for a while, and you're not really able to continue with them. So, yeah, it was interesting. I mean, it was a very interesting thing. I wish I'd maybe explored it a bit more as well.
Talking about your cricketing friendships with VVS Lakshman, you posted a photograph the other day, and you talked about the fact that you had a lot of conversations with VVS, obviously while batting, but then in the slips.
Yeah, you have a lot of time in the slips, It's one of the things, especially fielding for India. No disrespect to the bowlers, but you're doing a lot of fielding, and so we're fielding a lot in the slips, and you can't always discuss cricket all the time. At times, yeah, you're discussing cricket and you're having a chat about the cricket, but there are other times when you're just talking about different things, and what's happening. What's happening in the houses? We just happened to be constructing houses at the same time at that stage, and so yeah, so some of the conversations would be really interesting. So I'm having issues with the plumbing or the electrician. Which kind of electrician are you using? What switches do you think we should use? But of course, we must warn people that we would switch back on once the bowler started running and focus on trying to take the catches. But it's I think that's the thing about friendships and being with the same people for such long periods of time, that you develop these friendships and you develop you have conversations, and you're comfortable enough to really discuss so many different things. And it's not just discussing cricket. I think we've discussed a lot of personal stuff, and I think over the years it's nice to have those kinds of sounding boards and people that you can speak to and discuss a lot of things. And some of them who've gone through the same situations that you have, faced the same, who are part of the same journey as you. And I think that's where you get your best insights from.
Your wife always said that the crankiest Rahul Dravid would get when he dropped a catch.
Yeah, I think it was the most. I think nothing gave me more disappointment than dropping a catch on a cricket field. I think because, you just felt that you let somebody down, especially if he's been bowling in a hot day for a long time, and you put down the one chance that comes and you put it down. So I always made an effort to work really hard on my slip catching and ensure that ensure that I gave myself the best chance to take every single catch that came my way. But it was always disappointing to drop a catch.
Your wife Vijita also mentions the fact that before a test match starts tomorrow, that night you don't do anything that will disturb Rahul Dravid. Just leave him alone. He meditates and all of that. What is this deep intensity?
It's just that I started becoming quieter. There's no doubt that people would notice, and I wouldn't notice it myself, but people around me, like Vijita and stuff, would just notice it, and sometimes and they would tell me about it, and I would always say no, nothing like that. But then they would sort of show it, later on when it started happening, they would say, see, and I said, yeah. But it's just a natural, I guess, an anticipation of the game that's coming on, and so you just maybe got a bit quieter. You just sort of got more into your own thoughts rather than you sort of became a little more inward looking rather than sort of outward looking.
But describe your routine.
I mean, I don't think I had one particular.
Oh, you don't have one routine?
It was not the same thing. I wouldn't, you can't, because you're different countries, different places, different things. But in general, yes. I mean, I would have certain amount of, in the sense that I would do certain amount of things, certain things irrespective. So. One of the things I would do is before a test match or even before every day's play is to just actually sit down for, say, half an hour or so and actually just think about the next day's play and what is it that, who am I going to play against, what is the kind of bowling, what are the tactics, strategies, what's the wicket like, what are the shots I should play, is there anything from the last game that I've learned against these guys, the kind of fields that they set to me. So just stuff, tactical stuff around the game. I would just sometimes, meditate just before I slept. Just do some relaxation exercises, and the first thing when I got up in the morning, because it would when you get up first thing in the morning, sometimes you just feel a bit tense in the lead up to the game, so just maybe 10-15 minutes of that, and then the rest of it I was generally quite flexible, so it wasn't that I had to eat lunch here or I had to eat dinner here, I couldn't go out, and I think that would just vary on the situation.
Are you aware of the fact that hotel guests used to complain, people especially who were living next to your room, that weird noises would come out from Rahul Dravid's room because there was actually a net practice happening there the night before?
No, I wasn't. You carry a bat.
Would you knock the ball?
No, I wouldn't carry a ball with me. I'd carry a bat with me. I like to carry the bat in my room and just sometimes just pick up the bat and get a feel of what it felt like in my hand. And so, yeah, when you're tapping the bat on the ground, then sometimes, the people below you, on the floor below you, and sometimes you get the odd call saying, can you stop that? But no, I mean, I know I gave the impression of being, and I was intense, but I wasn't like cricket occupied my mind all the time.
Vijita said that early in your marriage, she thought you were sleepwalking.
No, I mean, the thing is that when you're always you get up and sometimes you can't get sleep, so you're sort of, swinging the bat, or you're just, you're sort of practicing a drill something. I think that's a lot of batsmen will do that. They'll sort of, and you're taught that as a youngster, is to just drill your technique in front of a mirror. So you're practicing, you're shadow practicing, so to speak. We call it shadow practicing in front of the mirror, and it just becomes a habit. It's almost it's a comfort feeling, I think. It's just a little bit of a comfort feeling. When you feel nervous and stuff, you pick up your bat and shadow practice and imagine yourself smashing the bowlers all over.
Mane Kaka tells a story that somebody complained that there's a lot of noise coming out of Rahul Dravid's room. So they went back and said, sorry on your behalf. And when they found out that it was Rahul Dravid's room, they came and apologized, because they didn't want to go down in history saying that we disturbed Rahul Dravid and India lost the match.
Thank whoever they are, thank you so much.
How come nobody talks anything negative about you? Even your social media page, no negative comments. It's unprecedented. How does this happen? Even the Under-19 World Cup when you lost, when you were the coach, there was a statement which said that World Cup does not deserve Rahul Dravid.
I would have liked the World Cup. No, I don't know. I've just been a good guy, I think. Try to be one.
But something you must be doing right. Non-controversial is a good strategy.
I don't try to be it. I mean, I just try and be who I am. I mean, I think there's no strategy to it. I'll be honest. I'm not sitting there and thinking, this is the kind of strategy. This is who and this is what I want my social page to look like. I'm not really following it either. But no, there's no strategy. I just try and be who I am. And I mean, I have had my share of controversies. You can't go through a career of as long as I have without having some controversy or the other, or having, been in the news for the wrong reasons, or getting a few things wrong, or, blowing up a few times. So it happens to the best of us. It happens to all of us. So, no, actually, I haven't really tried to do anything different.
A good guy, but still the Aussies sledged you, right?
At times, but not as much as I think. I think they get a bad rep, at least in my opinion, for no real reason. Because at least a lot of times I think, I get asked this question, the Aussies must sledge a lot, but honestly, not really. Not really. I mean, I think if you have the quality of a Glenn McGrath or a Shane Warne, I don't think you don't need to be sledged. You don't need to sledge too much. They're such good bowlers. So, no, I really enjoyed playing them. I think it was some great contests and some great, great rivalries. We played some great matches against, they were the best cricket team in the world in my generation at that point of time, and they were an incredible side. And we competed well with them in a lot of series and in a lot of games. And I think that's what you want. You want that as a player. You want those contests.
I saw a clip yesterday while I was doing some research. I found out a nice banter between you and Mitchell Johnson in an IPL game, where you were giving it back to him, and that was such a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, I think it was probably later on in my IPL career when I said, enough, I'm not handling any of this. I'll give it back now.
But Steve Waugh never gave compliments easily. Always rough Steve Waugh comes to you and says, write the foreword of my autobiography. How's that?
Look, I really enjoyed doing that, and I think it was Steve Waugh was someone I grew up admiring, because again, someone who I looked at as someone who not had everything easy, not had it smooth, but had really fought back and become a really, really consistent player and played some incredible knocks under pressure. So someone I looked up to, and then to be asked to write the foreword of his book, I thought was a really nice thing, was a really nice honor. And someone I got along really well with through, and in the few interactions that I've had throughout our careers.
Did you guys sledge Steve Waugh ever?
He was actually one of those guys where you actually didn't want to sledge him too much, because he reveled in it. He was one of those guys who almost looked for a fight, and he was, and if you didn't sledge him to motivate him, he would sometimes sledge you while he was batting, so that to get himself going. You almost got that impression. I remember this game in Madras when we walked in and we decided in that 2001 series we're not going to say anything to Steve Waugh, because if he loves it and he enjoys it, so let's not say anything to him and let's just keep really quiet and let's see how he reacts to that. And sure enough, he walked into bat, and there was just silence and nobody's saying anything, and maybe the odd come on Bajji, or I think Nilesh was playing in that game, and we were So I was saying nothing to him, and I think after about 10-15 minutes, he got so frustrated. I think he turned around to the wicketkeeper and said, "Aren't any of you going to say something to me?" but yeah, no, I think there were certain guys who just wanted to lay off, and Steve Waugh was one of them.
So our show is What the Duck. What is your favorite or worst duck that you remember?
I've got a worst one. Inter-school final. An inter-school final in Bangalore is a pretty big thing, and it's at the Cottonian Shield, and you have a lot of the sort of boys from the school come to watch. It's quite a big sort of final, big event of the calendar, and so it was a big event to play, and I was really excited about playing this sort of inter-school final. And I got run out for a duck. I think I played one ball, and then the second ball I think I got run out for duck, and I remember sort of crying all the way back to the pavilion. Not a great thing to do in front of your whole school. You get reminded about it a lot. So yeah, it was one of those early ducks of mine. I was so excited and so keen to do well in that big game that getting run out was just probably the last straw. And yeah, so that's a worst one I remember. Yeah, it's so many years ago, I still remember. I can't imagine.
Yep, Rahul, we have something very interesting for you here. This is a jersey for you. Dravid 21. These are the number of ducks you've scored in your life.
Thanks for reminding me. I'll wear that with pride. Thanks.
Rahul Dravid always had a very serious expression. Even when he came into bat, you got an impression that Nirupa Roy was coming into bat. Here is Rahul. The other guy who was very serious was Jacques Kallis. Gap in his teeth, very oldish look. Come to think of it, Kallis looked old throughout his career. I think Kallis and A.K. Hangal are two entities who were never young in their life. But the funniest stance award goes to Shiv Narayan Chandrapal. He completely confused the audience. Here is Chandrapal. Many times I used to get worried that he will be given one day LBW by the leg umpire. I hope you like this show. My favorite moment with Dravid is the banter he had with VVS Lakshman in the slips.